It takes only 3 seconds to kill a man. I know this because I used to count. Now, sitting at this grimy table, the beer bottle in my hand doesn't even tremble. In Colombia's humid air, the fan spins slow and merciless. My name is Alejandro Wyatt, and this story isn't about a hero, it's about a man ground up in the system's gears. But here's the real shock. I chose this dingy little bar in one of Medellin's barrios has been the same for years. Walls reek of mold, tables are sticky, music cuts in and out. I was 17 when I first came here. Now I'm 40 and still sitting in the same corner. The only difference is I can pay for my drinks with American dollars now. Sipping my beer, I look out the window. Kids playing football in the street, mothers hanging laundry, men smoking on street corners. Looks like a normal life, but I know better. Every corner has a Malparito, a piece of shit. Every kid's future holds either a gun or a grave. He wasn't the only one in this situation. Those of us born on these lands, we all share the same fate. I lost my father when I was 12, in a cartel hit. His crime, working in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. He was a construction worker, nothing more. But here, nobody's just one thing. You're either with them or against them. There's no middle ground. At least there wasn't in the 90s. My mother went silent after my father's death. Words stopped leaving her tongue. Only tears flowed. 2 years later, she was gone too. They said heart attack. I knew it meant a broken heart. I was orphaned at 14. An old Taurus pistol. From a friend, off the street. Rusty, heavy, but for me it was a symbol of power. I never used it back then. Just kept it under my bed. I'd wake up at night and touch it, wondering what the cold metal made me feel. Power, fear, or just smoke and mirrors. By the time I turned 17, my name was starting to get around the neighborhood. I was a fighter, wouldn't bow to nobody. One day, 3 guys came to my aunt's shop demanding protection money. They wanted money from an old woman. They called it protection money, but really, it was just a shakedown. That day, something inside me snapped. I'd grabbed my gun and headed to the shop. 3 men were standing in front of my tia's register. One was real young, maybe 2 years older than me. The other 2 were in their 30s. Had cartel gang marks tattooed on their necks. And right then, I drew the gun. "Get out of here," I said. My voice was shaking, but my hand wasn't. The young one laughed. "Who the hell are you, chamaco? I'm not telling you again." I saw the older one reach for something. I was faster. Didn't pull the trigger, but pressed the barrel to his forehead. "You can try," I said, "but I know you. Everyone in the barrio knows you. And if something happens to me, my people will come find you." I was bluffing. I had no people. But the bluff worked. The man backed down. All 3 left. The fear in my tia's eyes never left my mind. But it wasn't fear for herself. She was afraid for me. "Alejandro," she said that day, "you're a good kid, but this road leads straight to the cemetery." If you're into these kinds of mysteries too, think about life's breaking points. Which moment changed you? For me, it was that moment. Next day, one of the neighborhood capos called me in. His name was Ricardo. Cardo connected, but also a kind of referee in the barrio. Heard what happened? He told me. "You're either brave as a lion or dumb as a post. Both," I said. He laughed. "Got an offer for you? You could work for the cartel. Good money on the table." "Thanks, but no." "Why not?" "Because people like that killed my father." Ricardo's face hardened. "Then what you gonna do? Waste away here, like yesterday's garbage?" "I'm gonna be a soldier." This hadn't even crossed my mind till that moment, but the second the words left my mouth, I felt they were right. A soldier. Ricardo mocked. "You gonna die for the government?" "No, I'm gonna live for myself." 3 months later, I joined the Colombian army, started basic training, and that's where I saw everything was cut from the same cloth. Maybe you've faced situations like this too. That moment when you get inside the system and realize it's dirtier than it looked from the outside. At training camp, I saw favoritism from the first week. Rich families' kids got assigned to cushy duties. Poor kids' guys like me got the shit end of the stick. One of the commanders, Colonel Medina, was openly taking Mortadah's bribes. Everyone knew, but nobody talked. I stayed quiet because I had no other choice. But something inside me started rotting. Things were just starting to look up when, 6 months later, I started my real assignment in southern Colombia. Fighting FARC guerrillas, that journey was pure inferno. The jungle, humidity, insects, and death lurking around every corner. I'll never forget my first firefight. We walked into an ambush. The kid next to me, his name was Carlos. He was 19, took a bullet to the head. When I close my eyes, I still see his face, but I survived, and I learned fast. Within a year, I became one of my unit's best soldiers, got sniper training, got tactical leadership training, and most importantly, I learned how to kill. Anyone who lived this moment would lose their breath, but I got used to it, and that's when everything changed. An American came to camp and called me in. The American's name was Agent Morrison. Tall, blue eyes, spoke perfect Spanish. But there was something in his eyes, an emptiness. Like someone who'd already sold his soul and didn't lose sleep over it. Alondro Wyatt, he said, laying my file on the table. Impressive record. 19 years old and already 6 successful operations. For FARC guerrillas, neutralized, 0 casualties on your side. I did my job, I said. You did more than your job. He leaned forward. You're not just someone who follows orders. You think. You plan. You anticipate. That's a rare talent. I stayed quiet. Didn't know where this was headed, but my gut was telling me something. I want to make you an offer, Morrison said. The United States government is running special operations in Colombia. We're fighting the cartels, but we need local help. Someone who knows the terrain, speaks the language, and most importantly, can be trusted. If you're wondering whether this is real, that's what I did in that moment. Was this real, or another trap? Why me? I asked. Because you hate the system, but you're still in it. Because the cartel killed your father and you want payback. And because, he smiled, you seem too young and innocent to be bought. The words hit me like a slap. Innocent. I'm not innocent, I said. I know, but it's nice that you said so. Morrison stood up. Think about it. Salaries triple what you're making now. Training, equipment, and a chance to climb out of this hole. In return, what do you want? Loyalty, intelligence, and sometimes, dirty work. And right then, I made the decision that would change the rest of my life. I said yes. 3 weeks later, I was in a secret CIA training camp. Location, I didn't know. They took me in a closed truck, blindfolded. I stayed there 6 months. They taught me everything. Advanced interrogation techniques, communication encryption, deep cover operations, bomb making, bomb disposal, chemical analysis, and most importantly, how to disappear. One of the instructors, an ex-Green Beret, named Sergeant Davis, told me one day, Alejandro, you're a good soldier. But what you'll learn here is something soldiers don't know. Nothing's black and white. Everything's shades of gray. And to survive in the gray zone, you can't afford the luxury of a conscience. Back then, I didn't believe him. Now, I regret it. My first mission was simple on paper. Infiltrate a small cartel cell near Ether Intelligence. Report back. That's all. But nothing's simple in the field. To infiltrate the cell, I presented myself as a street dealer, cocaine courier, low-level, insignificant, harmless. For a month I did small jobs, carried packages, stood watch at doors, kept my mouth shut, and I listened. I heard names, learned routes, noticed security weaknesses. But I learned something else too. These people were just like me. They were poor. They were desperate. Most of them hadn't chosen to work for the cartel. They'd been forced to. If it were you, what would you do? Would you break the law to feed your family? One of them, a young kid, his name was Miguel, asked me one day, "Alejandro, why are you here?" "For the money," I said. "No." He looked into my eyes. "There's something else in your eyes. Are you a cop?" My heart stopped, but I didn't show anything on my face. "A cop? Me?" I laughed. "Cops are our enemies. Hermana, I'm just like you, trying to survive." Miguel believed me, or wanted to believe me. 3 weeks later, I passed the intel to Morrison. Coordinates, names, timelines. "Great work, Alejandro," he told me. "There's an operation tomorrow night. Don't be there, okay?" But I felt uneasy inside. The next night, the cartel cell got raided. Colombian police and special forces. Altogether, 12 people died. Miguel was one of them. When I read the report, my stomach turned. "Resistance encountered during confrontation," it said. But I knew Miguel. He was only 17, didn't even know how to use a gun. When I called Morrison, there wasn't an ounce of remorse in his voice. "Unfortunately," he said, "but that's part of the job. We can't always tell innocent from guilty." "He was innocent," I said. "No, Alejandro. He worked for the cartel. That makes him guilty." "He was forced," I said angrily. "Everyone's forced, but we make choices. He made his, you made yours." Not a trace of regret in his voice. But here's the real shock. Morrison was right. I'd made a choice too. And Miguel's blood was on my hands too. After that night, something inside me died. Maybe my conscience, maybe my humanity. I don't know, but I kept going on missions. For 2 years, I was involved in 13 different operations. Some were successful, some were disasters. But every time, I lost a little more of myself. Once, I broke into a cartel leader's house. I was gathering intelligence. Nobody was home, more so I thought. When I entered the bedroom, I saw her, his wife, baby in her arms. They were looking at me with fear. "Please," the woman said. "Don't hurt my child. I won't harm you," I said. "Just stay quiet." I took my documents and left. But that woman's eyes, I still see them in my dreams. He wasn't the only one. In this situation, there were thousands lost in the system, and I was one of them now. By the time I was 23, I'd become one of Colombia's most successful undercover agents. I worked for the CIA, but officially I was still in the Colombian army. I lived between 2 worlds, and both worlds were grinding me down. One day, Colonel Medenius, that corrupt commander, called me in. In his office was another man. I didn't know him, but his expensive suit said it all. "Alejandro," Medina said, "let me introduce you. This is Mr. Hernandez, from Bogota, businessman." Businessman, sure. Everyone called themselves businessmen here. "I've heard a lot about you," Hernandez said. "You're a talented man, but you're working for the wrong side." "What do you mean?" I said. "I mean that Americans are using you. But they're not giving you what you deserve." "I can." He handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was $10,000. "This is just the beginning," he said. "If you work for us, there's much more." Things were just starting to look up, and now the narco was offering me a bribe. "No, thank you," I said. I handed back the envelope. Hernandez smiled. "Think about it. The offer's on the table." Colonel Medina said nothing, but I saw it in his eyes. He'd already been bought. When I left the office, I called Morrison, told him the situation. "Good job," he said. "For refusing?" I asked. "No, for telling us. Now we can watch Hernandez." I understood. I was just a pawn, and everyone was using me. But the biggest blow hadn't come yet, because a week later, I was going to meet a woman who would change everything. Her name was Esther. Esther and I met in a hospital. Strange, isn't it? In a life where I danced with death, I found her in the most fragile place of life. That day, I'd been wounded during an operation. A grazing bullet wound on my arm. Wasn't serious, but Morrison insisted. Go get treated. You'll catch an infection. In the ER, she looked after me. Brown eyes, gentle hands, sweet smile. She was a nurse, 24 years old. How did this happen? She asked, cleaning my wound. Work accident, I said. What kind of work do you do that these accidents happen? Construction. She laughed. You get bullet wounds in construction. She'd caught me. Dangerous construction, I said. And in that moment, for the first time in years, I truly laughed. A genuine laugh from inside. Maybe you've faced situations like this too. Those moments when you find hope in the most unexpected place. Esther and I started dating 3 months later. She didn't know what I couldn't know. I told her I was a simple soldier. Half true. When I was with her, it was like I lived in another world. Away from the darkness. Clean. Beautiful. Sunday mornings, we'd have breakfast together. Evenings, we'd walk by the beach. At night, I'd listen to her breathing as she slept and feel safe. One night, sitting on the edge of the bed, she held my hand. Alejandro, she said, you're so quiet sometimes. I wonder what you carry inside. Not much, I said. Don't lie to me. I see it in your eyes. Something's eating at you. I looked at her, and in that moment, I wanted to tell her everything, but I couldn't, because if she learned the truth, she'd leave me, or worse, she'd be in danger. Just, the past, I said. Everyone has a past. I know. She rested her head on my shoulder, but the past should stay in the past. You're with me now, and that's enough. That night, I proposed to her, and she said yes. 6 months after we got married, she got pregnant. When our daughter Sarah came into the world, when I held her for the first time, I cried. I hadn't cried in years. But that tiny baby, with her pink face, her little fingers, warmed my heart. She awakened the last remaining humanity in me. You're my everything, I told her. I'll protect you from everything. But I was telling a lie, because could I protect her? Could someone with hands as dirty as mine protect something so pure? If you're wondering whether this is real, I questioned it every day. When Sarah turned 2, Morrison called me again. Big operation, he said. One of the Kali cartel leaders. We need to catch him, and you'll provide the entry from inside. How long will it take? 3 months, maybe more, he said with fury. Morrison, I have a family now. I can't take more risks. I know. He leaned forward. But look, Alejandro, this'll be the last one, I promise. After this operation, we'll move you to a clean job. Maybe instructor, maybe analysis unit. Your field work will be over. His voice was convincing. Really? I said with great hope. Really? I wanted to believe. God, how I wanted to believe. Okay, I said. But this really has to be the last. The operation began. It didn't take 3 months. It took 6. For 6 months, I lied to Esther. I'm at training camp, I said. Can't talk on the phone. But in reality, I was in Cali, deep undercover. I'd managed to become the cartel's security chief. I'd gained everyone's trust inside, and I stabbed them in the back. When Operation Day came, everyone was ready. Colombian Special Forces, helicopters, armored vehicles. It was a massive operation. I opened the door from the inside. In 10 minutes, it was all over. Cartel leader Carlos Majea was captured. 33 people arrested, 8 people killed, and me, I was a hero. On paper, Morrison congratulated me. Great work, Alejandro. You're a legend. But I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt tired and dirty, if it were. You, what would you do? Would you do anything for your family? Anything at all? When I got home, Esther gave me the cold shoulder. 6 months, she said. You left for 6 months without any word. I told you. I was at training camp. Don't lie to me. Her voice trembled. I saw you on TV, on the news. Undercover agent involved in Kali operation. That was you, wasn't it? I froze. Esther. ... You're not a soldier. You're a spy. Or I don't even know what you are. Tears were flowing. I was protecting you, I said. It was safer if you didn't know. Were you protecting me, or were you protecting yourself? She was right. Like always, she was right. We talked a lot that night. We yelled. We cried. And finally, I told her everything. Who I was. What I did. Why I did it. For my father, I said. For my mother. To survive in this rotten system. Esther stayed quiet for a long time. Then she held my hand. If you're going to quit, I'll stay with you. But if you continue, Sarah and I can't be here. I'll quit, I said. I promise. Morrison said it was the last one. It's over now. Believe me, Esther, it's over. But here's the real shock. Nothing was over. It was just beginning. 2 weeks later, a package came to our house. When I opened the box, there was a photo inside. A photo of Esther and Sarah, taken on Sunday at the park. I wasn't there that day. On the back of the photo was a message. We lost our brothers because of you. Now it's your turn. We'll start with your family. My hands were shaking. The world was spinning. I called Morrison immediately. We're under threat, I said. My family's a target. Calm down, Alejandro. We'll provide protection. Protection isn't enough. They'll find me. They always find me. Then let's get you out of here. Where? I said anxiously. America. The US. New identity. New life. You, Esther, and Sarah. You'll be safe. And right then, I made the hardest decision of my life. Okay, I said. But I have one condition. What is it? You're hiring me? Police? Detective? Whatever. I want a normal life. But this time, truly normal. Morrison paused. We'll handle it. 3 months later, we were in Los Angeles. We had new identities, new passports, new home. I was now a detective with LAPD, hired through legal channels. Morrison had handled everything. Esther was happy. Sarah was happy. The American dream, right? But me, I was still in the nightmares. Every night, I'd wake up, look out the window. Every stranger's face was a threat. Every unusual sound was danger. Anyone who lived this moment would lose their breath. You think you're free, but the cage is still around you. One evening, Esther asked me, "Are you happy?" "Yes," I said. "Don't lie," I laughed. "You know me too well." "I do, and I know you're still playing that man, the man who lives in shadows." "But Alejandro," she looked at my face, "that man doesn't exist anymore. Now you're a husband and a father, and that's your real mission." She was right, but the voice inside me still whispered, "This is too good to be true. They'll find you. They always do." And I knew, sooner or later, the past would come. Those who live such moments never forget how fragile peace is. But that night, when I came home, I hadn't expected what was waiting for me behind that door to come so soon. Los Angeles, 2015. 10 years since we left Colombia. 10 years. Sarah's 13 now. Speaks Spanish with an American accent. Got friends. Got school. Got a normal life. Esther's still a nurse. Works at Cedars-Sinai. When she comes home in the evenings. Tired, but happy. She hugs me. "How was your day?" she asks. "Good," I say. Always the same answer. And me. I'm a detective with LAPD, Homicide Division. Ironic, isn't it? I used to cause death. Now I solve deaths. Maybe you've faced situations like this too. You try to run from your past, but it always catches up with you ironically somehow. My partners don't know much about me. To them, I'm just a guy who immigrated from Colombia, Got citizenship, ordinary guy. My record's clean. My references are solid. Morrison handled everything. But sometimes, when I pull a file from the cabinet, or when I'm in the interrogation room with a suspect, that old Alejandro wakes up inside me. Him, the man who knew how to live in darkness. The man used to lies, manipulation, violence, and I'm afraid of that man. Once, we were on a drug trafficking case. Suspect was a Mexican cartel member. He was yelling in Spanish, cursing. My partner Rodriguez was answering in English. Didn't understand a thing. I stepped in, spoke Spanish. Listen to me, I told the suspect. Lowvoice.com, but threatening. I speak your language. I come from your world. And if you try to play games with me, I'll send you to a place where you'll never see the sun again. The man settled down, then talked, told us everything. Later, Rodriguez asked me, "What did you tell him?" "Just spoke like a gentleman," I said. But that day, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw that old darkness in my eyes. It was still there, sleeping but not dead. If it were you, what would you do? Can you ever truly escape your past? Evening at home? Sitting at the table. Esther's cooking. Sarah's doing her homework. News on TV. A normal evening, but I'm always on alert. I look out the window. I check the door twice. I keep my gun in my bedroom. Esther doesn't know. One night, Esther asked me, "Alejandro, did you really quit? That old work?" "Yes," I said. "It's been 10 years. Then why are you still so tense? Why do you still look at the shadows?" "Just habit." "No." She held my hand. "This isn't habit. This is fear. You're still afraid." She was right. Always right. I'm afraid. I confessed. Because I know that in this world, nothing truly ends. People don't forget. Cartels don't forget. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe 10 years from now, they'll come. Esther looked into my eyes. Then we'll face them together. You, me, and Sarah, as a family. That night, I held her tighter than ever. Anyone who lived this moment would lose their breath. That moment when you think you can't protect your loved ones. At work, reviewing files, I saw a name, Miguel Reyesa. Miguel Anon must be a different Miguel. But the age was the same. Birthplace was the same. My heartbeat quickened. I opened the file, saw the photo. I recognized him. It wasn't him. That Miguel died 17 years ago. But this was his little brother. Face looked so much like him. And now this, Miguel, in Los Angeles, came illegally, was a suspect in a stabbing case. I entered the interrogation room, looked at him. He looked at me. "Do I know you?" he asked. "No," I said. "First time we're meeting," but a voice inside me was screaming. "You killed his brother. Maybe not directly, but you caused his death." That day, I let him go. There wasn't enough evidence. But the real reason was my conscience. Rodriguez asked me, "Why'd you let him go?" "No evidence," I said. "But you always find evidence." Couldn't this time. Those who live such moments never forget. When the ghosts of the past come. After that night, my dreams got worse. Every night, I saw them. Miguel, the people who died in cartel operations, the old woman and her baby, all of them. One night, in my dream, I saw Esther and Sarah. They were lying on the ground. Blood everywhere. I woke up, drenched in sweat, looked next to me. Esther was sleeping, peaceful. I went to Sarah's room. She was sleeping too, but the voice inside me wouldn't shut up. "It's just a matter of time. They'll come, and you won't be able to stop them." In the morning, drinking coffee, my phone rang. Didn't recognize the number. "Hello," I said. "Alejandro Wyatt." The voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Who is this? You forgot me." "It's Agent Morrison." I froze. I hadn't talked to him in a long time. "What do you want?" I said angrily. "Just checking in. How are you? How's the family?" "We're fine. and I have no business with you anymore. I know, but I need to tell you something. There are escapees from the Kali cartel. Some have come to America, and your name's still on the lists. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? I mean, be careful. They didn't forget. You promised me 10 years ago. You said we'd be safe, and you are, but I can never give you 100% guarantee. Just stay alert. He hung up. My hand was shaking. Coffee cup fell to the floor, shattered. Esther came to the kitchen. What happened? Nothing, I said. Dropped the cup, but she saw it in my eyes. The fear, the panic. Things were just starting to look up. The past is never truly past. After that day, I became even more careful. Used different routes going home. Checked under the car. Every morning. Didn't tell Esther and Sarah, but I had them followed secretly. At work, reviewing files, I saw a connection. A Colombian gang, operating in Los Angeles. Names weren't unfamiliar. All from Cali, and one of them had a nickname, El Vengador, the Avenger. This couldn't be a coincidence. Didn't show the report to Rodriguez. Didn't show anyone, because if an investigation opened up, my past would come out too. And Esther, Sarah, everyone would learn who I was, what I did. If you know some things are better kept secret. Sometimes staying hidden means staying alive. One evening, at home, Sarah asked me, "Dad, what did you do in Colombia?" "Soldier," I said. "Did you fight?" "Yes, with bad people." She asked curiously. I paused. What could I tell her? Yes, I fought bad people. But was I one of them too? Yes, sweetie, with bad people. Did you beat them? Some of them. Then you're a hero. With happiness, I smiled, but my heart ached. Heroism, such an easy word. So wrong. Now, here, in Los Angeles, sitting at a table, sipping my beer, I'm thinking, 10 years passed, 10 years of peace, 10 years of lies, because I'm still that man. The man born in Colombia's dark streets, ground up in the system's gears, did dirty work for the CIA. Now I carry a police badge. I'm a family man, a husband, but my eyes still see darkness. My hands are still dirty, and I know, one day, when that door gets knocked, behind it will be the past. Maybe tomorrow, maybe 10 years from now, but it'll come, and now you're wondering too, aren't you? What'll happen when that day comes? I promised Esther, I promised Sarah, I'll protect them. But sometimes, I know protection isn't enough, because in this world, dirty hands can never be washed clean. And me, ... I'm just a man trying to survive.